Okay, we're going to look at data collection and frequency tables today. This is one piece of a larger statistics unit that we're covering in Algebra 1. And there'll be multiple videos that you can kind of go through at your own pace and look at. Some of this stuff is review, some of it's not, but we need to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward. So really this unit is about making and looking at frequency tables, but it makes sense to have a little conversation about data collection overall. So when we look at data, statistics gives us an opportunity to come up with some meaningful numbers or trends within a set of data. And if we're just trying to collect numbers, in our classroom, that's one thing. But if we were going to represent numbers for a larger population, it's important that we make sure that we have good samples, okay? So you want to make sure that the data that you have is a good sample, which means it's representative of the larger population, okay? So in other words, if you were going to try and give information that you're presenting as representative of the whole country, then it's important to know that you only surveyed people in Maine, maybe, okay? That wouldn't be a good representation of the whole country. You want to make sure that people are selected at random, and you want to make sure that the sample is large enough to provide you with accurate data. You wouldn't sample 5 people and then try and say that that's representative of the whole country. So those are some things to think about. So really quickly, just to kind of make you think a little bit. So here's an example of 100 people in Lafayette, Colorado were asked to eat a bowl of oatmeal every day for a month to see whether eating a healthy breakfast daily could help reduce cholesterol. After 30 days, 98 of those in the sample had lower cholesterol. Is this a good sample? So some of this you can argue either way, but there was 100 people, right? That's a decent sample. Now, it was only in one specific town, okay? But would that make a difference necessarily for your health? Maybe, I don't think so. You could argue that point. But I think overall that's not a bad sample. I would look at this. When it says source Quaker Oats, that might make you say, maybe I'll look into this a little closer, because Quaker Oats, you always want to look at information and see who's presenting it, and is there any motivation for those people to present the information in a certain way. So obviously Quaker Oats wants you to go buy oatmeal. So since they're the ones that did the survey, even though it seems like it's okay, maybe you want to look into how they got their information a little bit closer. But overall, I think this is probably a good sample. 200 students at a school basketball game are surveyed to find a student's favorite sport. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? There's a pretty good chance that if all these students have gone and taken the time to go to a school basketball game, that they probably like basketball, right? So that might not be the greatest sample. Every other person leaving a supermarket is asked to name their favorite soap. That seems completely random, right? You're going to have a large enough sample. So I think that's pretty good. That's not a bad sample at all. So anyway, so we take surveys, we get information, and what do we do with that information? Well, one thing that we can do with that information is we can make frequency tables. So after the survey is complete, the gathered data is organized into different types of tables and charts to make more sense, okay? One way to organize data is by using a frequency table. In a frequency table, you use tally marks to record and display the frequency of events. Frequency is how often something happens, okay? So here's an example. And now this is just within a classroom, okay? In an experiment, students charged balloons by rubbing them with wool. Then the students placed the balloons on a wall and counted the number of seconds that they remained on the wall. The class results are shown in the chart at the right. Make a frequency table to organize the data. So this is just the raw data. Someone was writing down every person that stuck their balloon to the wall, and they just recorded all the information. And when you look at information like this, you kind of become mesmerized by it. It all kind of blends together. You can probably take a few minutes and pick out the smallest number if you had to, and then go through and pick out the largest number, but it's not really presented in a useful way, okay? So when we look at making a frequency table, we can take this information, and there's basically 4 steps. First of all, make a table with 3 columns, okay? Time, tally, and frequency. It's sometimes helpful to use intervals so there are fewer categories. Like in this case, you wouldn't want to go make one whole row to be 15 and then 16 and 17. We want to go through and make some intervals, okay, that make a little bit more sense. Use tally marks to record the times in each interval. So tally marks are where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one counts as 5 and you move on, okay? And then we count the tally marks in each row and record the number in the frequency column, okay? So when we take this information, when we present it in a frequency table, it's just a little bit easier to look at, and I can answer questions more quickly and efficiently by looking at the information in a frequency table than I can in its kind of raw form here, okay? So maybe what I'll do is I'll go, let's go 15 through 24 seconds. And 25 through 34, and 35 through 44, 45 through 54. I think that covers our highest number. 52, that covers that. The smallest number is 15. I think that'll work. Okay, so I go through, and any number between 15 and 24, I'm going to cross it's helpful to cross these out as you go. So, okay, so there's 15, 22, 20, 21, 16, 18, 21, 21. Okay, so as I look through this, I can make a tally. As I was going, I can go 1, and then I can do the next one and do 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Now let's see. Did I miss any? I don't think so. So I have a frequency of 8. Okay. So then I go over to the next ones for 25 through 34. Maybe I use a different color. Maybe I use a different angle. I'll use a different angle since you're just using pencil. You probably don't have colors. So I'm going to have 25 through 34. I'll just do it in the opposite direction, and I'll make tallies as I go. I probably should have been doing that the first time. So let's see. 26 falls in that category. That's 1. 25 is another one. There's 26. There's 29. 33 would fall in there. There's my 5. 36 does not. 30 does. 39, no. 34 does. 35 does not. 27 does. 29 does not. We have a 35 here. That falls in there. Nope, it does not. Sorry. Back up. 35 would be the next one. And 40 does not. So, unless I missed one, let me go back real quick. I have 25. Ooh, I missed my 29 here. So there's 4. So that would be 9 altogether. Okay? So maybe now I move to circles to keep things straight. So 35 to 44. Okay? So 35. No. That'll be in there. There's 1. 43 will fit in there. 39, 35, 42 will work, so there's 5, 35 will work, and 40 will work, and I think that's it. So that's 7, and from 45 to 54, I only have 1 left. It's 52, so there's only 1 there. So that would complete my frequency table. So it's just a method in which you can keep track of your numbers, put things in order, and start to get a layout of where most of this information fell. So you can clearly see that the way this is laid out is that the numbers were pretty consistent from 15 to 44 seconds. And then obviously after 44 seconds, it really dropped off. There was only 1 that stood on the wall that long, okay? So that's the basic idea about how to make a frequency table. So, your turn. Make a frequency table to organize the data in the chart at the right. Now, we don't know much about this. It's just one table. It says noon temperature. So someone collected these noon temperatures probably over a number of days. And it's our job to try and figure out how to make this frequency table work for us. So remember, just like any other table or graph, you want to make sure you have a table, a title. So why don't you stop the video, take a shot at it, come up with your own increments, and then come back and see how you did. It might be a little bit different, but it should be pretty close. So I'm going to do this, pull this away. I've already kind of made this beforehand. So I have noon temperatures. I have 3 columns, temperature in Celsius, I have my tallies, and I have my frequencies. So I'm going to start with my 5 to 14. Well, there's a 14, so I've got that one. And there's a 10, so I've got that one. And I don't think anything else fits in there, so I only have 2. Okay. Now 15 to 24. Looks like I'm going to have a bunch of these. So 15 to 24. There's one. There's one. There's one. There's one. That makes 5. Another one. There's one. And right there. So there's 8. From 25 to 34. This would be one. That would work. There's 2, 3, 4. Not 36, but 25 would be one. And 30 would be one, and 26. So 30 and 26, there's 2 more. So this is 7. And it looks like I only have one left from 35 to 44, so that's 36, so I have 1 there, okay? So I have a frequency table that I created based on this random data. Now I can clearly see that there's a layout. Most of the information, or most of the temperatures, were between 15 and 34. So the 5 to 14 and the 35 to 44 were kind of outliers. Those were not as consistent, okay? Let's do one more of these and answer some questions on it, and then and that'll be it for this lesson. Okay, last example. Mr. Juarez awarded 2 points to each student answering the daily bonus question correctly. The data at the right lists the total number of points each student earned for the week. Make a frequency table for the data. So you get 2 points. So you'll notice that there's no odd numbers here because you get 2 points each time. So we have 4s, 6, 8s, and 10s. So I think we can split that up like this. We have point totals of 4, 6, 8, and 10. So I'm going to go through the process and create a tally for my numbers. So maybe I'll just take these columns. So here I have 1, 2. Done. Here I have 1 more. Here I have 1 more. It's 4. I have 1 more. That makes 5. And then no more, so my frequency is 5. I'll move over to my 6s. I have 2, none, 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 1. And 2 in that last column, so that's 4 and 5. Okay, I move on to 8, so I have a 5 here. So for my 8s, I'm going to do, I have 1 there. I have 1 on this column. I have 2 in this column. I have 3 in this column, so that one makes 5, and then 2 more. And I don't have any more, so there's 7. 9, 10s, I have 2 in this column. I have 2 in this column. I have 1 in that column, so that makes my 5, and then 2 more left over, so I have 7 again. Okay, so there's just one last example, quickly making a frequency table, but now I can answer questions that this table would have been a little bit tricky to look at. I don't know about you, but I look at numbers like that. They just all kind of blend together. But this, I can answer these questions fairly quickly. So how many students earned less than 6 points? Okay, well, 6, 8, and 10 are all 6 or above, so less than would be 4 points, and I had 5 students. How many students earned 10 points? Clearly, 7. And then finally, how many students earned at least 8 points? Now, at least 8 points means 8 or above. And I have 7 that got 8, 7 that got 10, so I have 14. Okay? So there's your last example. So this is just kind of a recap of data collection and frequency tables.